Check the technique, see if you can follow it. Check the technique, see if you can follow it.
So, welcome to episode 4 of Check the Technique podcast. Today's guest hails from the northeast of England and is considered one of the UK's top funk producers, DJs. A staple on the Craig Charles Funk Show every week. Today we're going to check the technique at Smoove. So, welcome, man. Welcome to the show.
Good evening.
How you doing?
I'm good, yeah. Well, whenever this goes out.
Sure, yeah. We'll try and keep away from the whole curfew stuff and stick to just the music-y things, I reckon.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your style of music.
My background is basically the b-boy thing, graffiti, scratching, beatboxing. None of it particularly well, just like kind of good at all of it, but nothing really sort of what's the word? I can't think of the word. Sort of, no master of anything. But so yeah, and I got into like boogie, funk, and disco when I was about 13. I didn't really know what different instruments were. Soon figured it out. Like it was the bass lines that I liked and the drums. And obviously because I could break dance, I sort of really related to how music was sort of laid down in that way, in that sort of fashion. So I ended up going into music from cut and paste sort of background, pause mixing, and then eventually sort of working with musicians and figuring out how to put notes together and like very badly. So I realized my forte was being a producer. So I ended up getting using samples and things like that, and then ended up getting a record deal off the back of that. Yeah, and it's been a long journey since. Many record labels and hundreds of releases.
One of your earliest releases, I think, was the Digital Underground remix. Is that right?
Yeah. Basically, what happened there was we were signed as an artist, me and two of the guys, as Ultra Groove. A bit of a 90s name, I know. But I was actually the rapper in the group at that point.
Also, you were a model at the time, right? Or was this earlier?
Yeah. Part-time model, yeah. Not very good at that either, clearly. I think I was more of a freak model, one of those things. Yeah. So I actually did get, not loads of work, but I got various bits of work for modeling because of my hair and my big lips. And
I'm pretty sure I saw you on like a Little Words catalogue type thing. I'm sure you posted something.
Yeah, I was actually used in a big campaign for British Telecom once as well, and various other bits. But yeah, let's not talk about
that.
Okay. So I ended up being signed to Big Life Records, which was incredible, for this record that we produced ourselves, which was called I Wonder Why, which sampled Boss Skaggs. Now that record never came out. In fact, there's only 3 copies in existence, and I own one of them. Thankfully, it never came out because it wasn't very good actually, and it's got me rapping on it. Who wants to listen to that? But because they didn't clear the samples. But one good thing that came out of it was the record label obviously licensed Tommy Boy stuff, so they had like De La Soul, Naughty by Nature, and Digital Underground, as you mentioned. So we got the opportunity. We got a call, and it was crazy because we were sort of in a record shop at the time in Sunderland. There was no mobile phones at the time, and they rang the record shop trying to find us. Where are you? And they were like, "Oh, the guy I did the music with at the time was called Tubes." And so this call came through to this record shop in Sunderland, and it was like, "Tubes, it's for you." Then Smoove, like, there's some guy from Big Life Records wants to talk to you. And we were like, oh my God. So we spoke to him and he says, what you doing? So, well, we're record shopping. Well, clearly you need to get down London now. There's an opportunity to come up for a remix. And we were like, oh my God, Digital Underground are our absolute heroes. So we dashed home, stayed up all night working on ideas for this remix. We had like this DAT sent up on like just the a cappella, which we've still got somewhere, of No Nose Job. So we slung over like loops and bits and bobs and samples and tried playing bass and all sorts. And we ended up going to London to Roundhouse Studios in this incredible studio. We did like 3 days in there, and we did loads of versions, but we ended up, I think they used 2 of the versions that we did. And one of them was Stevie Wonder Loop, I Wish, which was done way before Will Smith did it. And we also did, what was the other side? Oh yeah, Stretch. Why did you do the things you do to me? That track. we did a really cool one with Baby Be Mine by Michael Jackson, which obviously the record company love, but they said there's no way we'll get this sample clearance from Michael Jackson, A, and B, he's rapping about no nose job, slightly controversial with Michael at the time. So yeah, that was a real sort of like, wow, what just happened there? You know, and then the next thing is this track that we'd remixed was actually, because we used to watch your raps in the pub on a Saturday afternoon because it was the only place to watch it because we didn't have Sky TV, you know what I mean? Who did then?
For sure.
Now everybody does. But we used to go to the pub just to watch it, and I used to like get like a pint of lemonade or something, you know, like 'cause I didn't even drink back then. And we'd sit and watch this, and lo and behold, the video came on, and they'd ended up syncing our remix over the entire European MTV network, which was just unbelievable. You know, that really blew our minds that they'd synced our version over their video.
Wow.
And that was it. And then basically our career with Big Life kind of fizzled out after that, and that was it.
So, damn, man, that's a hell of a story.
Yeah, on the multi-track, because we got sent the master tapes in the end, you know, the 48 track, like huge tape, master tape, and we were pulling the sliders up and down in the studio. We had an engineer as well, because obviously we were kind of felt a bit out of our depths in this environment, because we just, you know, we're doing it at home sort of vibe, and we're pulling these faders up and down, and we were like, oh my god, listen to that. There's Fuse One, Fuse. The DJ Fuse, sorry. There's Money B, slide that one up. There's Humpty Hump. And then there's Shock G, like the same guy, but like, you know, pretend to be someone else. And then there's George Clinton on one of the faders singing along. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then we slide the next one up and it's written Tupac. And I'm like, I can't believe it's Tupac. This is before Tupac had blown up as well.
He was a dancer, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. And they discovered that he was more than a dancer and obviously worked with him with loads of rap tracks, you know. So, yeah, it was mind blowing. It was such a whirlwind, though. It really was. It just happened, and then we sort of sat back, and the next thing we know, Steve Wright was playing it on Radio 1, daytime radio, and we were like, what the fuck is going on here? And they were like, I would have been playing this ages ago if someone had sent it to me. Who's to blame? Big Life, because Big Life's problem was, right, they licensed the stuff from Tommy Boy. They were contracted, and they didn't put any money behind it. They just licensed it to release it, and that was it. So lots of rap in the UK would have been bigger
if they'd have marketed it.
Yeah, but their attitude was just, well, we just put it out, that's it. So we were frustrated because we'd obviously done this remix to make it slightly more commercial, I guess, and it worked on its own legs, you know what I mean? It ended up on Radio 1, which was just unbelievable.
I hear a lot of stories about Tommy Boy being shady. Like De La Soul recently, they sort of tried to get everybody to boycott Tommy Boy because they wouldn't put out something to do with like the first few albums.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, you never had any issues with them.
No, I mean, we never dealt directly with Tommy Boy. It was Jazz Summers, rest in peace, who had a Big Life at the time. And I mean, it was amazing because we were in the, we got signed and it was like, wow, this is it, you know. Tribe Called Quest's album, Low End Theory, got released the week we got signed. So I was in London and we went record shopping with our manager and he says, just buy what you want. I'll put it on my card. And I was like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe what's happening. So I actually got Tribe Called Quest album. He gave me a load of stuff as well. He gave me like some Michael Jackson white labels and like there was just some great records. KMD, that just came out. I still remember the pilot he gave me as well, you know. So it was really, really, really exciting. Honestly, just thinking back, it's it makes me hands shake, like just the sort of energy that was there, you know. It was like incredible, but it was also really sad because we'd been signed and it was kind of like, you know, our label mates were like Lisa Stansfield, the Orb, who were like huge on Big Life at the time, and De La Soul had just left the building as we walked in. They'd just finished doing a photo shoot on the back staircase on the staircase out the back, and I've actually seen those photographs as well. So it was all a bit like, you know, it was a bit crap because, you know, I said to them like, oh, what's all these cassettes in this tape? This is when we're in the office. And they went, oh, they're all demos. And I went, any of them any good? They went, I don't know, I've never heard them. So I sort of started seeing the bad side of the industry like how cutthroat it was and how people just got dropped like for the smallest thing. Like our sample clearance, like I mentioned earlier with Boss Skaggs, basically they pressed up thousands of copies of 12 inches because in the 90s they used to make a lot of 12
Sure.
inches. And then they just like, they never got the sample clearance after they pressed them. So this guy rang us up and says, he was our A&R guy. I'm really sorry, but I can't get the sample clearance. We're like, what? So our entire song was just put completely on hold, and then subsequently our career was just put on hold. And we tried like recording more tracks, and they just kept saying send us demos. And to be honest, looking back, we probably weren't good enough. Maybe we got signed for one song, but the good thing that came out of it was the Digital Underground remix, which was something in itself. I mean, it's actually some of my friends who get more excited about this than I do. The Smoove fucking remix 2-pack and Digital Underground, man, fucking hell. And I'm like, all right, man, aye. So, yeah. And then that was it, and then I sort of fizzled away and stopped doing music for a little bit and went to university to do sculpture, which I got a degree in.
Wow.
Because I used to do graphic design before any of this sort of happened. I was in Luton doing graphic design for a company, and then I moved back up north with my tail in between my legs because I got a bit bored down there. I just didn't really like it.
Sure.
And then started back on music again. Actually, that was before the Digital Underground remix. So after the Digital Underground experience and we dropped from Big Life, I sort of started doing solo stuff. So I bought a computer, didn't even know how to turn it on, never mind use Cubase and things like that. And I was really, really frustrated, but I knew it's what I had to do.
Were you using a PC?
I just, what it is, I saved up money to buy a PC. Yeah, that's like
a 386 or something.
Tower, a tower, like with a big screen and all that. So it wasn't like a laptop. Yeah, it was a PC. So it was like, right, okay. And somebody showed me the very basics of how to just import a sound, how to cut the ends off, and how to put it into sequence and then start chopping. And then I discovered I could put reverb on, and wow, it sounds produced. I put reverb on everything. So yeah, it was something I knew I had to do because I'd put it off for years. Because when we used to do music with this guy as Ultra Groove and Tubes, he was on the sampler, and I tried to learn it, and it just baffled the hell out of me. The fact that you couldn't actually see, and it was all like written in sequences and like numbers and jotted down. It was just the minefield of horrible. Yeah.
So you were working directly with the audio, and you weren't using a sampler when you
No, I was going. Yeah, I was going straight in. I mean, originally I was doing my ideas on 4-track, and then my friend would translate those ideas into the sampler. So it was very hands-on.
So you've been using Cubase now for like what, easily 20 years, right?
Oh, you know what? I don't think I've ever used anything else. That's all I've ever used. From that day when I bought this PC, and I actually went to the pub because I was so frustrated, and I was sitting there by myself with a pint, and I didn't really drink much. And this guy came along called Graham, who I knew from the music scene. And he says, "Oh, what you doing? How's it going?" I explained the situation. He went, "Well, what are you using?" He didn't. What he said was, "How do you see music?" And I told him, and he went, "Right, this is what you need. You need SoundForge, you need Cubase, you need this, you need that." And he set it all up for me, and he showed me, and I wrote the notes down how to get the stuff in, and that was it. And it was a few months later he came round and he went, "How's it going?" And I went, "Oh, not that good. I've done these," and I played them, and he was totally blown away. And I was like, "Oh, really? I'm doing it right?" Then he goes, "Yeah, man, you really are." And then after that, I sort of realized everything was self-taught, like compression and things like that. I still don't really like. I didn't really get into the maths of compression, and I just knew when it sounded good, and that was good enough for me. I'd rather spend more time creating. Once I got the sound good, I'm kind of one of these people who sort of mixes as I go.
Sure.
And then I'll mix again at the end. I think that makes total sense anyway, because you need to know if it sounds like dog shit. There's no point going any further. Or sometimes you'll go back and change it because it's not working in the final mix. But yeah, that was it. Cubase and Cool Edit Pro was the first thing I got to use as a sampler, because I could see the waveform. I loved Cool Edit Pro. I was gutted when it wasn't compatible. I've still got my old laptop somewhere in this room. In fact, I'm looking at it. It's smashed to bits. So the newest one I've got now is a thing called SoundForge Pro. That's what I've got now. I actually bought it. I love sampling on it just because it's quick. I can sample in VST, but this is just for editing.
Sure.
And I still use that. And honestly, there's the algorithms for time stretching in Cubase are incredible. So I'm glad I was forced to upgrade because I used the old version of Cubase for years.
Is you keeping up with the different Cubase versions now?
No, because I mean I should, because I've just had a meltdown with my computer. I was just finishing my most recent albums for Smoove and Terrell, and the computer just went black screen dead. So I took it in the Apple shop. I mean, they know my middle name. They know the name of my cat now. I was in every day getting this fixed. And it got solved, but the problem is once they'd reloaded the latest version of OS X, which is an old version, nothing else worked. So I told them that Cubase has to be with this OS X. And then obviously all of my, what they're called, plugins wouldn't load back in. So I had to rebuy all of those. It was a total disaster, honestly. It's just, and I know it's going to happen again because everything keeps moving forward, and I'm always like one step behind it, you know.
Apple are quite notorious for that, aren't they? They want you to.
Yeah, well, everyone's getting models from 2015 now. All the DJs are all going for that. So I think mine's 2014. I paid £3,000 for this laptop I've got now. It's top spec. It's brilliant. Like it when it works.
So you're doing everything on that. You're doing your production and your DJ stuff. Although I mean, obviously you use records now. Have you got Serato, any digital?
Tractor. I use Tractor, but I only got that because I was teaching DJing, so I thought I needed to show how to use these vinyl controllers. So I started doing that, and then I realized actually when we do DJ sets with Terrell singing, which is quite far a few between, but still, I hate CDJs, so I didn't want to use that. I wanted to use the vinyl, so I was using real records and the Tractor, because half of our set was instrumentals of our own stuff, so we used to intersperse, you know what I mean? So it made sense to sort of use that. And then I used to take, well, I still do, I take effect pedals along as well for the vocals and sort of mangle them up as we perform as well. It just gives that extra edge. Like I've got 3 pedals, one's a compressor, then a reverb, and then the delay after that. So it's just good to hit. And sometimes I use John as an instrument. I'll say just give us a long note, and I'll use that to get into the next record or change the style. You know what I mean? It's great. Yeah.
You taught me a technique a while back, actually, and you taught me a plugin which I'd never heard of before, but I've had forever, and it was a Waves plugin called MV2.
MV2. Which one was that again? I'm just trying to think.
I think it was let me just double check now. MV2 was a compressor, but it's weird. It's a high-low compressor, and what I do is I stick it on a bus track, and I put a little bit of the low level up, a little bit of the high level, and I guess it might be an upward expander and a compressor, but it just on the end on a bus track, it just really glues things together and gives it a bit of extra grit and punch.
Yeah, I've gone through different things. I think finding a good compressor is the same as finding a good reverb. You can spend half of your life trying to find a good reverb. It is a nightmare. And when you get one that works, just stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll give you a couple good ones now though. Altiverb is the best one for convolution reverb. So what that does is it models all the physical spaces, like proper studios and warehouses and Egyptian catacombs and literally all types of things.
I did try to. Well, I bought the Beatles one, the Abbey Road one, the reverb. I bought that, and it was quite a lot, and it wasn't compatible with OS X, the version I'm running. I was like, I don't believe this. So yeah, that was 60 odd quid down the drain.
I'll see if I can find a hookup for some of these. So, but Altiverb's really good for getting a sort of room sounds.
Yeah.
The main reverb everybody really loves at the moment is Valhalla.
Right.
And they do a couple of the plate's good and the vintage reverb's really good. It's got a really good preset called Blade Runner, and it's just a really long, Vangelis-y, spacey thing.
Oh, I love stuff like that. Yeah.
But one of my favourite reverbs, and it's probably quite old now, is the Soft Tube Spring Reverb. Now,
Yeah.
it sounds like shit, like a Spring Reverb does sound pretty, it's probably the least expensive sounding of reverbs. But there's something about it, it's got so much vibe and character,
Well, I use a combination now for different psyche sort of stuff, and or like just because we don't overdo the effects with John's vocal. With John's vocal sounding so sweet, like as it is, you don't really have to spaz it up. But like with this, it was like I realized in certain sections in the song you could sort of go crazy. You know what I mean? So I started using the H delay,
Sure.
which isn't so much a reverb, but it was a combination of like the Kramer tape. I found the Kramer tape gave it that dirt and grit and a little bit of like slap back, and then you put your reverb on as well after. I think I used the what is it, H something, I can't remember now. Yeah. And that just really does what that sound. I like that old vintage sound, but still relatively clean.
I mean, are you mixing everything for all the albums at your studio, or do you take it elsewhere, get another engineer in?
No, I do it all here. There was talk about us trying to do that, and then I ended up buying the Focal speakers, and that made such a big difference. Getting these beasts, I mean, they're very
beastly,
expensive. Yeah, they're very heavy. I think one of them weighs like the same as my 8-year-old son, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah. And they cost me an arm and a leg, but it's the best thing I've ever bought in a studio. Seriously, like I'd recommend them if you got the money to get them, because I couldn't have made this most recent album without them, because the range, like the depth and the top end is just like the detail. That's the word I'm looking for. It's just incredible.
It's like having a magnifying glass.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, people say now a lot of people are mixing the headphones. I get that. I'm not. It's not what I like. I like to feel the air move, like in front of me. And
Are they set up like the equilateral triangle?
Yeah, well, I had a desk built especially to accommodate them, because my room isn't massive, but it's not small, if you know what I mean. So, but I had it set up so I've got a perfect triangle, and also I bought the huge isolation feet that are set inside the desk. I'll send you some photographs. It's nuts. But even Focus, Focal, reposted my picture that I sent up. I was like, oh, look, I've done this. They were like, oh, that's nice, like that you're actually hiding the isolation feed. Oh, no, that was it. It was the ISO who retweeted it. I was a bit like, oh, I hope I haven't offended you by hiding your feet.
I would agree with you that easily the most important thing in mixing is the speakers. As far as getting you can't really make a good decision without good information,
Well, I was talking to Malachi this morning, Malachi Trout, and he was saying, like, loads of people, even Premiere still does it. You spend your time making the track, creating it like the best you can get it. You can do it on hi-fi speakers, you know what I mean? Like a basic like construction of kick, snare, drum, bass line, whatever. Everybody struggles with bass line, let's face it. And then people take it to a studio and mix it properly, spend a day or a week doing a whole album. That's like the old school way of doing it. And I guess that art is dying now because people are getting better speakers and getting plugins where you can sort of start to mix it decent yourself. But if you're not very good at that, and you're not, and you just want to like create, because let's face it, creation can be stifled by mixing. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, like, I mean, there's a lot of people I know who've got all the gear, and they don't make anything because they're just too busy tweaking. Do you know what I mean? They lose focus. Like, that's the most important thing. Is like, come on, let's get this done. Let's get it down. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's my job. I think that's like why we get stuff done, is because that's the way I am. I've got all these great musicians around us, like incredible. And I'll just say, look, this is the vibe I want, blah, blah, blah. And they'll come up with stuff as well. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. And then obviously the most ruthless part is chucking loads away. Just bin it if it's not working. And then, until you get the bit that you need, and that's it. Don't don't fill your screen with crap. You know, like I might use that bit or that bit or that bit, because you won't, because you forget. By the time you're on your 300th take, yeah, you're like, what? Where was that bit again? No, no, you're not. You just, you know, yeah. So yeah, but you know, headphones. A lot of people used to diss headphone mixers, but in this day and age, it's very, very popular. I would probably say 50% of producers are doing stuff on headphones now.
I mean, I'd probably say to the audience, over 50% are listening to it on headphones, or if not, shitty speak. You know, like who's got stereo anymore? You know, it's like
Yeah.
which is a shame. Like there's a whole generation who don't appreciate that,
Yeah.
and not even on an audiophile level. You don't need to have like the most expensive setup. Just having you know, a hi-fi system with some speakers is just going to improve your, you know, like most things, like phones are all mono and that type of stuff, you know, so people
Yeah,
just getting
I know. But a lot of people just don't listen to music as it's intended. That's ultimately what we're sharing, isn't it? It's sad. I mean, I bought I bought the Alexa thing for you know, the little speaker thing,
yeah.
the fairly big one, not the little titchy one. I bought it for the kitchen, just for the family, you know, so they could like sit, so my son could go like, Alexa, play blah blah blah. But when I bought it, I was like, I'm getting the bass bin as well. And like, you know, my missus opened it and she's like, what's this? This massive, round, big, bulky thing. I saw, that's the bass bin. You don't need that. Yes, you do.
So that probably does most of the power of it, right? So you have the bass bin doing most of the grunt work, and then the tweeters just
Yeah, I mean, it just like, well, I mean, the sad thing is that if you play something like off Alexa, like through the internet, it plays through the bass bin and the top, it's like synced together, a bit like an old school speaker setup, you know. But if I connect Bluetooth with my phone and play something, it bypasses the bass bin, which is really annoying. And I've tried every which way but loose to sort of get it to connect, but I can't. So I've deliberately just give up in a rage. I hate technology. That's my downside. Is I am so stubborn. Like when something works, I will just keep working it as it is. And I know technology is quite important because it can take you forward rather than your sound being the same over and over again. I mean, that's the good thing about what we've done with this new album. We have gone much more electronic. Now, electronic's a very, very loose term nowadays. You know, we're taking our old influences. We've always been a funk and soul band, and we always will, but we're always much more than that as well. And I think that's it's not a cliche, but sometimes you've just got to like, people are really surprised, oh, what's this? What are you doing Chicago House now? And it's like, well, actually, if you knew anything about us, that's my roots, you know, like Mr. Fingers and all that sort of stuff was something that really appealed to me. And I grew up in the era when house music like actually exploded.
was eclectic as well.
Yeah,
right?
I was, yeah, like, I mean, that was the weird thing. I used to DJ loads in Germany and Switzerland many years ago, and lots of people would say like, oh, you're so good DJ, like really, this freestyle. I'd say, what is this freestyle? And they used to say freestyle all the time, and I realized it was their term for eclectic.
Sure.
Ism. Once I got it, I sort of really embraced it. But for me, it's what all DJs should do and would do. It's like play all genres and what, you know, mangle them in, you know, from breakbeat to rap, disco to funk to house to acid, you know, right across, easy. And in a way, our radio show is like an extension of that. We do a show called Northern Call Experience, and it's basically when you're in a club or a bar, it's sort of, you have to play certain vibes. I guess you can't play ambience, for example. But on the radio show, there is no rules. You know what I mean? you can go from the Muppet Show to like Art of Noise. You know what I mean? It's and that's what we do.
Was there any new artists then, or new genres or sounds which you are interested in?
Yeah, it's like, it's generally the more on the Balearic sort of tip, like you know, but without necessarily pigeonholing it like that. Like Quantic's new stuff, I really like that because it's going back to his old stuff, but it's futuristic, you know. There's stuff like Fila Brasilia just done a new EP.
Oh, is that any good? Because I
Yeah,
was really happy to see that name about. I haven't seen that in a long time.
really nice. Well, we like Steve Cobby, actually. He's just remixed one of our tracks, which will be out later in the year. And yeah, like stuff like that, but I listen to stuff like, what's he called? C. Duncan, who is, it's kind of folky church, but mixed with electronica. Also, I really got into this guy called Mac Ayres. It's kind of really slow R&B, but just beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. So yeah, like this, lots of new stuff, but still with that backbone, of the old school, but without it being pigeoned as like, Northern Soul or anything really. Just good music. Jungle Fire, absolutely love what they do. I mean, that is retro, but I love the way that they've got like the psych guitar in there and things like that, and all these mad effects. It's really well produced, and they just get it. You know what I mean? I'm amazed they're not bigger than what they are, to be honest. Like,
What are your plans for the future then? Is it? I mean, this album's just come out recently, right? You're promoting the singles at the moment.
Yeah, the new single just came out literally a few weeks ago, called "Do It," and that's out on Jalapeno Records. It's basically a boogie funk track, very positive summer vibes, and it's got slap bass on. We did. Neil Harlan did the bass, and he used. Now, normally when you associate slap bass, you have like really sort of spanky top end, horrible middle metal sound. Yeah. Well, he used strings that are not bright at all. They're so dull. So no matter how hard he thumped, it just grooved even more. So, and
Worn in strings, right?
yeah, well, I didn't like when he did 2 or 3 different takes, and sent me them over the internet, and I started chopping them up, and one of them was very ambitious. This one's really busy. This, you probably won't use this one. This is what a bass player would play live. and the other one is like more like for recording, so it was like simplified, like less going on. And I ended up like trying the less going on. I went, you know what, that sounds great, but I'll just try and see what the other one sounds like. And I put the other one in, the busy one.
Yeah.
And I went, nah, that's the one. Like, I'm leaving that in. So so Neil was over the moon that he'd got the busy one in, because it's like, it's what you want, isn't it? It's like, otherwise he wouldn't have played it that way. But he was just trying to accommodate me. So it was a wonderful thing, because it's like getting slap bass into recordings is very difficult to do without being cheesy, or sound like Level 42. So yeah, so that was the new single anyway. And then there's Fade Away that's coming out. That's the next single, and then It Ain't Working, and then that drops the same time as the album, which is called Stratus Blue. In June the 5th, actually.
Have you had to change the way you're going to promote it with?
No, I mean, the record company rang us and says, "Do you want to like stall it? Do you want to do this?" I was, nah. Well, what difference does it make? We've got a really good fan base. They're all going to buy the stuff. So the only difference is that we can't do the album launch. Like the actual, because we'd rehearsed to play all the songs live in London and in Gateshead. They were the 2 big shows, and then we were going to do like a tour for the rest of the year, doing some of the songs, not obviously all of them, because nobody wants to hear new stuff all the time. But we just can't do that, and we've rescheduled dates, but who knows? They might get dropped as well. In fact, some shows I've actually booked 2 reserved dates. You know what I mean? After they've cancelled anyway. So, hopefully things will get back to normal. We're talking about doing a live stream, but sort of pay to view it, because obviously all the musicians in the band are not making any money. So we would just, I mean, normally we wouldn't do that, but a few years ago we did a crowdfunder thing to go to a Canadian musical festival, and I was a bit dubious, to be honest. It was our old manager who says, "Come on, let's do it." And we did it, and we got £8,000 in 4 days.
Wow.
And we couldn't believe it. Yeah. So we know now that our fan base has grown tenfold since then. So we know that our fans are definitely there for us. So, I mean, it's good to know that, because every band ultimately wants a following like that, So, and we're not going to abuse it, We'll just only do so many live shows on the internet if we have to. That's why we haven't streamed anything, because at the minute it's really saturated, isn't it? With everybody playing a fucking flute to a banjo with one string.
Watching all these people DJ on Facebook, and it's lifted the veil of it being a thing. Like it's when it's just them practicing at home essentially, with the people voyeuring onto it. It takes, I don't know,
something out of it.
Completely, I mean, like
the face off it.
The environment is what I'd say 70-80% of DJ culture. You're playing to a room and an environment, and you're making it. And I don't know. I it's really put me off it.
Yeah, I know. It's I'm trying not to think about it because it's like it'll just wind me up.
Yeah, right.
To be honest, I'd sort of, this is weird, but I'd sort of semi-retired from DJing. I had some residence in Newcastle, and once I'd lost that, I was just, I'm glad I can't be bothered with it 4 in the mornings anymore. And I was so busy with the live band thing and managing the band and booking the shows and producing. I just thought, I don't really need this. And then I found out in the end, actually, I didn't need the gigs. So I only do like one-offs very, very rarely. Like the last thing I did was the Tribe Called Quest launch. And then before that, I think I DJ'd like just after New Year. That was about it. So I don't really miss it because I started like falling out of love with music over DJing. And, and I've got an incredible record collection and like, 45s, all the rap 45s that people would chop their arm off for. And I use them out, you know what I mean? It's not like I just collect them to show off, but it doesn't matter anymore. It's kind of like that the audience don't care about that, you know what I mean? It's just, the love's gone. It's like, there's something dying in the art form, I think, yeah.
I'd agree. And there's a lot of people who they sort of make the format, having 45s the thing, rather than the sort of the celebration or the exploration of music. So it becomes a thing to stick onto your flyer.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, the other thing is, I know that it's sad to be a 45 collector, but I did it because I was bored and I wanted to sort of just excite myself again. So I started buying the same records I've already got on 7-inch. Now, I know that's sad as fuck, you know what I mean? I know it is, but I didn't care. It was making me feel better and more interested in music again. And I still do like 45s, but I've definitely calmed down. Well, especially since this has happened, because money's now an issue. You know what I mean? You just got to watch what you're spending. But no, I still love that both formats. I've actually fallen back in love with 12-inch because I've got lots of good disco stuff. And when I do the radio show, that's what I predominantly use is the 12 inches for mixing. And it's funny because when I started the radio show last year, I thought, I could just do a 45 only thing. I thought, well, what's the point in that? No one could say anyway. That's just stupid. So I'm glad I didn't do that, actually. But maybe I should do a 45 feature on it, eh?
So talking of 45s, tell everybody about the Tribe Called Quest 45, which you've put out, was it last week?
Right. Well, basically, I've done Della Smoove. And I did, what was the other one I did?
Main Source?
Yeah, thanks. Main Sourced. So, and they were quite challenging. I remember doing the Della Soul one in the airport, and I sent it to Shep Dog, and he heard it, and he went, wow, let me put that out. So we did. And then the Main Sourced one, actually, I started the Main Sourced one because I was just going to do a new version of Think Twice. That's all I was going to do. With the same drums and sort of extend it. And I ended up like looking at the Main Source album. It was in front of me and I went, wow, I could take all the original samples. So I did. That's how that happened. It was a pure accident. And then for years, I've thought about doing the Tribe Called Quest thing. And I've also thought about doing, which I might do the next one, Paul's Boutique. I'm thinking about doing Smoove's Boutique.
Wow.
Yeah. and obviously there's not many rap bands that you could do it with. Pete Rock probably, Public Enemy maybe. There's not a good like bar of
Sure.
sampling quality, like consistently enough. So anyway, I set about this thing, a Tribe Called Quest. I got the intro going. I knew what I was going to do. I'm going to use the drums from Can I Kick It, obviously, but I didn't just sample the drums. You know what I mean? I ended up sampling the kick, the snare, the hi-hats, then sampling the loop, and then multi-layering them and pitching kicks up and down. And like, there was about 15 channels just on the drums, as you heard.
Yeah.
Because you mastered them, right? And so I was really sort of like, okay, this is where it's got. And then doing the research was quite interesting, like obviously writing loads down and finding more and more and more and more. And I ended up with like probably 300-400 samples. And I was like, right, I need to whittle this down to what's audible, like I'm not just going to put it in because it's Tribe Called Quest. I'm going to put it in because it's good. You know what I mean? That was the rule I gave myself. And the other stupid rule I gave myself, because I wanted to put it on a 7-inch, I restricted myself to about 9.5 minutes. So I was like, so when the task was almost done, I kept finding more samples, and I was thinking, well, where can I wedge this in? There's no more room. So I had to start stacking them on top. Like, in other words, having to pitch them to sit with the other samples, and that was really difficult. So at one point you can hear there's a Grace Jones chord going over Take a Walk on the Wild Side, and another point there's like a ride cymbal from Lloyd Lister Smith. There's then a guitar part, another guitar part, and then another psychedelic bit, and then Jimi Hendrix. So it got so complex. Anyway, cut a long story short, I got halfway through and I honestly started losing the plot. I couldn't sleep at night. These samples were spinning round and round and round in my head, almost like a riff that wouldn't leave my head. And it was driving me insane. So I had to leave it. I had to stop. And I thought, I've taken on too much here. I can't do this. And then in the end, my friend, I played him a snippet when he came around, when I just started making it. And he came around, he was called Bob Zilla, and he went, "Have you finished that Tribe thing?" I went, No. He went, "Oh, why, man? You should finish it." I went, "No. I'll tell you what, I loaded up, and I hadn't heard it for like at least a month, and I put it on." And he went, "That's amazing." And I went, "Actually, that does sound really good." And then he left, and then that was it. I was off again, and I was like, "Yes, here we go." And it just started to come together a little bit easier. So sometimes stepping away from things can, is a world of good. You know what I mean? And then it was done. Obviously, the mix took like 50 different mixes at the end.
Wow.
But there was so many channels of layers that in the end, I think it was just over 100 samples. And then you had the drums on top as well, so.
Was your computer struggling with all that, or?
Actually, it was fine. It was really good.
It's weird. Like audio is not very resource heavy, really. It's the plugins nowadays which takes most of the CPU.
Yeah. Well, I ended up on a few albums ago with Smoove and Terrell. I was doing a track called In Deep, and I got really into the disco sound. So I'd had a string section round, and we were like recording layers and layers and layers. And then I got the brass in, and as you can imagine, there was about 300 channels, all audio. This is, and my old computer was really struggling, and it was really frustrating because it was sounding amazing, but I had to mix the strings down as one piece.
Yeah, for
once
sure.
I structured them and then put them back in, and then if I wanted to change them, I had to then go right back. You know what I mean? But that's I'm sure a lot of producers have had to do that, compromise in some ways. The art of that, of layering and making things big and so like you say, a wall of sound, is at the end you need it to sound like it's not that complicated, that you want it to sound really, really simple. Mm-hmm. And that's the art. I mean, Michael Jackson is the sort of go-to for me, off the wall. Quincy Jones, like how intricate that stuff is, but normal people who listen to music, who don't really understand music, just who get music and that's great, right? But they don't understand the layers and the amount of energy that's gone into creating that masterpiece that actually sounds really simple, but it's not. It's so not. And that is the sort of the goalpost to me, of like, if I can get stuff to sound like off the wall, then you've done a really good job.
So if you could meet any producer, this is like a who's your favorite producer? But if you could meet any producer, who would it be, and what would you sort of ask them?
Oh, well, that literally is kind of just answered it.
Yeah, Quincy.
Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched his movie and it was really interesting, like how he had to stop drinking. Have you seen it, by the way?
The Netflix documentary.
Yeah, it's superb. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just, he's very arrogant, but rightly so. You know what I mean?
He's just stubborn because he's an old man.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But he's done everything. I mean, he did a bit of rap, and that was shit.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, that was awful, that album. But and I think that's why he didn't like rap as well, because his thing just didn't work. It's a bit like Prince in some ways. Prince tried rapping, and it wasn't very good. Yeah. But Quincy Jones, I don't know what I'd ask him. I just think I'd rather like just sit down and have a drink with him. And just pick his brains. No specific thing. Of just more about. I'm more interested in people's lives, like how they got from there to there. That's what I find amazing. Yeah.
It's been really great talking to you. I don't think we've had a proper natter for a little while. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Where can people find you and find your music stuff?
Well, that Tribe Called Quest record I found out today is just sold out.
Did you manage to blag a copy?
I've got a test pressing. I'm waiting on a parcel to arrive still, which is one of them is yours. Obviously, it's got your name on because you mastered it. Thanks for doing that.
I have to say, it's one of my proudest moments in in mastering and stuff, to be honest. And because it's in gold as well, and it's the Tribe logo. Like,
I know. I mean, I think perhaps it's sold out because it's got the connotations of Tribe Called Quest. I think if it had nothing to do with Tribe Called Quest, I don't think it would have got half as much heat. You know what I mean? Their reputation has sort of helped push it. Definitely, you know what I mean.
Did you watch the Tribe Called Quest documentary?
I did. It's very sad.
Yes.
Very, very sad.
Yeah. Right.
Like that's all I can really say. It was just sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was too late, really, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It was eye-opening. I didn't realize how bad things were. Beats, Rhymes, and Life was not just my favorite, but probably had the biggest influence me when I was growing up as a teenager.
Their first album was more like De La Soul meets Jungle Brothers. It was cool. It was fun. That's the word. It was fun. The second album was the one I wasn't expecting that, but I absolutely loved it. Yeah. I think it's because of what was going on at the time when I got signed. The Low End Theory was just it. That was it for me. It was just the bass and drums and the jazz samples. Sure. That was like I loved that. And I found Midnight Marauders and Beats Rhymes virtually the same album. Do you know what I mean? And it was nice, but it was kind of going more down a not R&B, but yeah, more of a smoother sort of sound.
Yeah,
and believe it or not, I actually quite liked Love Movement. I know no one likes it. I liked it as a Walkman thing. I had a mini disc at the time, so I really got into sort of going for a walk with it on, like because the sound of the drums and everything. Jay Dilla, I just love that vibe. In fact, I just recently revisited it. Obviously, when I was doing this project, and it brought loads of memories back. I could almost see myself walking down Ashbrook, like with the heat. It's great. But yeah, Tribe Called Quest, and their last album, wow. I mean, that was so good, right? What happened was, I was on tour with the band, and I downloaded iTunes, and I ordered the 2 copies of the vinyl, I think, and the 7-inch from Japan, because it only came out in Japan originally. So I'd ordered them all, downloaded, and I had these new KRK headphones. I was like, I'm dying to listen to this Tribe Called Quest in the back of the van. Put my headphones on, and just it was like going back to 1991 when Low End Theory came out. It had the same vibe, the same energy. And I felt like 21 years old again. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. The hairs on the back of my neck were sticking up. On further listening to the album, it isn't as good like the Elton John stuff and all the guitar solos and shit rock solos. But ultimately, it comes down to 3 incredible songs, which, you know what, that's not bad. There's a lot of hip hop albums. If you get 3 really good songs out of it,
lucky,
then that's good. I mean, that's the same with The Last Gangstar. album. You know, there's 3 really good songs on that. But I mean, that track with the siren on, you know, that's just with the Black Sabbath drums. It's just out of this fucking world. That like, it really is. That was, I mean, what a way to go out. Your last ever song by releasing that, We the People. It's fucking believable, that record.
So you still got big love for like the good hip hop.
Yeah, it's a funny one. Like, you know, people call this new rap, and they call all rap old school, and then they call this thing now, they call it lo-fi. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I think the last 2 projects I did were lo-fi albums.
I don't really understand what that is. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so a quick summary of it would be, I guess a lot of golden era hip hop would be considered lo-fi, like boom bap and
Right.
stuff, because I guess opposed to using like high fidelity shiny synths and like
Right.
super hyped 808s and stuff, it's more
Right. What you're saying is that you can't like, if you're making that sound in this modern day, you can't call it golden era because it's not in that era. It's actually now.
a little
so
bit
you're
of
giving
that,
it
yeah.
another name. Right.
Yeah, I remember when the Herman Puma came out, and like people, well, I think the label were like sort of pushing it as a lo-fi, and it wasn't the lo-fi that is about now.
Right.
But totally, I mean, we were sampling a lot of really rusty library records, which didn't have any excitement in the upper, you know, in the top end or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I really disliked it at the time. But thinking about it now, I've gone all in. Like, I really like the lo-fi stuff, and I guess stuff like Flying Lotus would be up there. And a lot of these like SP404, you know, that little sampler.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of the cats who use that, and the good stuff's brilliant and really interesting, but the bad stuff does sound like music, and that's the
Yeah.
type of stuff that you find on YouTube on people, you know, like as a travel blogger's introduction music or something, and it's just like
Yeah.
really generic, has no balls, has no like, you know.
Yeah. There's I'm just trying to think. Like, I mean, the people like Edan, right? I mean, he's just taking it all and just putting it through like
Oh yeah,
this
yeah,
box.
crazy.
You know what I mean? It's like through his own box. It's like, it's amazing. You know, it's punk, it's rock, it's funk, it's country, it's rap.
Do you remember the Essential mixes by David Holmes?
Yeah, they were amazing.
And he'd have his like tape delay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh god, I wish I had one of those. Like, I mean, I've used Serato now for like a good at least 12 years, probably longer.
Yeah.
And having a sort of a delay out, having the ability to sort of delay and do different sort of transitions rather than just beat matching.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm still beat matching, but the delay is really nice for just sort of, you know,
Yeah.
like smoothing the ride out. But his was crazy. Like, it was just really like nuts psychedelic tape delay.
Yeah.
And he
It's
could
the
go.
way-
You go from anywhere. You could literally go from a Muhammad Ali like novelty record to a really obscure San Francisco spiritual poetry funk records. Just, you know, a lovely bit of tape delay.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Edan live with Homeboy Sandman just last year. I actually supported them, and it was amazing, like incredible. He had this guitar, like an acoustic guitar, this really bad one, and he had it through with this distortion pedal and then loads of delay. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to sound check this," and he like hits it at one point, and it's so loud. And he goes, "Is that too loud? Like, it's supposed to freak people out." So, and then I knew it was coming in the show, you know, because I was there at the sound check. And when he hit it, everyone just went, "Whoa!" It's just like, you know, like that thing of like, it meant it. It was the details, like to Edan, like that meant everything. You know what I mean? It wasn't just about the show; it was about all the details and like shown like the experimentation off to its fullest. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the fact there was two of them bouncing off each other just made the show even more entertaining.
We put on Edan, well, it must have been 10, nearly must have been 10 years ago, and we put them on in Brighton, and the live show was fantastic, really fun. At one point, they get someone out from the audience, and it's like, who wants to be the robot? and then they're in like these cardboard boxes covered with aluminium, like doing like someone in the audience doing like robot dance and stuff. Fantastic, just like a bit of, it's
Well,
good.
I've got it in front of me now. I've just got the new Your Old Droog,
Brilliant,
which is
really good stuff.
amazing.
When he came out, people were like, "Oh, it's Nas,
yeah,
and other stuff and that." I like him. He's got
great.
a great voice.
He's amazing. I mean, it is slightly unfortunate that he does sound very much like Nas, but I mean, so what? It's like this new thing I've got by him. It's called Jewelry, and it's
Another one, yeah.
I think they only cut 30 copies on vinyl. I was very lucky to get one.
Did you ever check Action Bronson?
Yes, I got the 7. Is it him where he's rapping over the theme tune to Cold Soul? Have you heard that?
Yes, yeah. No, it's Eastbound and Down, right?
Is it? Because I've got that on a test pressing, which is like pretty hard to find as well.
And like he sounds like a white Ghostface a little bit.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was never a big fan of Wu-Tang. I know this is probably going to shock people, but I never really got into them. I think it was. I sort of looked at Wu-Tang like there was some kind of oasis of the like in comparison,
Sure.
and I think it's because everybody liked them. It's just sort of tarnished the whole thing for me.
Their first round of albums were great and really interesting, but after, I mean, from what was the second album where it was the double CD, Wu-Tang Forever?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
there was one amazing track on there, and then the rest of them I could throw my hands up against them.
Jizz's Sword, what's it called?
The first Jizz album.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Totally.
People were saying he was an amazing producer. That the tracks sound like dog shit in a club. They sound terrible.
A lot of 90s hip hop like that era does. Like I've got loads of stuff where it's like, well, I have to go and like remaster them just to get them. Even then, it doesn't quite work.
Nah. Well then, but I got Fish Scale.
Yes.
Is that Ghostface? That's an amazing album. I love that. But even some Edan stuff, like I got, when he did the multicolored stuff off the Rainbow, and he did all the sleeves like in like sort of same consistency. Yeah, a lot of those 12s just won't play in a club. They just sound like awful, like so distorted, so bad. Yeah, in the house it sounds great, and on your headphones, but in a club it just doesn't work. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, really weird. And then I guess, maybe that's why some pop music, which sounds terrible, really works well in sort of pubs and...
Yeah, it's all middle.
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it?
Yeah, aye.
But, sorry, man, plugs, where can people find you?
If you want to find my stuff, basically our main website is smooveandterrell.com. And we're also obviously on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. It's the same, just Facebook /Smoove and Terrell. Twitter is just Smoove Terrell for some reason. And Instagram as well. I think there it's Smoove Terrell as well.
Cool, man. Well, look, thank you ever so much for being on the podcast. This has been episode 4 of Check the Technique. Come find me on Facebook or Instagram and Twitter. And if you quote CTA to the Facebook group Cosmic Trigger Audio, I'll give you 10% off your first master. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.
Check the technique.